Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Hash It Out Show. I am your host, JB, your sports guy, and tonight we are still celebrating the new 2023 College Baseball National Champions, the LSU Tigers. Dun, 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 dun. But we're going to pause the celebration just for a quick minute. I have to announce my co-host first. My first co-host from CrescentCitySports.com, the one, the only VK Jones. VK, what's going on?
What's going on, man? How y'all doing? Like, tag, share, and subscribe to the Hash It Out Show on all social media platforms. So please subscribe to one of the best and growing shows all over the city and all over the state. So we appreciate everybody joining us tonight. We got a good show, and it's good to be back in the number 2 slot.
Also, other co-hosts from CrescentCitySports.com, George Peppers. What up, GP?
Not too much, JB. I'm good. I'm doing great, man. Look, last night was amazing in every facet. I know I said this off air, and just wherever you were last night, whether it be at any establishment or in your house or with family cookouts, wherever you were, even if you were in Omaha knocking down blood shots, listen to me, Jello shots. Which LSU just did it liberally in every way. Wherever you were, I hope you made it home safe. I know I saw a tweet from Jay Johnson saying that they're back home, and tomorrow in Baton Rouge is going to be absolutely lit tomorrow with that parade. And I'm happy we're going to have a great guest on tonight, talk some LSU baseball, and let's get going, guys.
Let's get going. This guest, he has been on this show before. He's back with
Mhm.
us again. He is a college baseball central contributor, the one, the only Alex Day. Alex, how you doing?
What's up, fellas? I'm doing great, man. Just got, great 10 days at the College World Series. I wasn't there able to be there the whole time, but I was there for the first few days of it, and man, it was awesome, and what a great way to end it.
Oh, you're never lying, man. What a way to end it. Explain to our audience how important it was for LSU to win this national championship.
Well, it's been 14 years since the last one. The end of the Pulmonary era was not so great. There were some issues there. And for Jay Johnson to come in his second year, Kim Mulkey did it before him, and now we got Jay Johnson his second year coming in using the transfer portal, and getting some of these guys. It was really awesome to see a lot of the homegrown Louisiana guys. The Gavin Dugases, the Cade Belosos, the Hayden Travinskys, Alex Milazzo, all those guys that have been there through the good times and the bad times, been there forever, and get a chance to not just go to Omaha, but then win the national championship for the team that they dreamed of playing their whole life.
I want to go back to game 2 for a second when LSU lost 24-4. And I didn't see that happening, but it happened. Talk about the morale of this team to automatically forget that loss and move on to game 3 in an instant.
Yeah, at the post-game press conference, Dylancrews said, like, the team's already forgotten about it. In a game like that, by the 7th inning or whatever, like, you are, all right, game's over, whatever. We lost, sucks, flush it, ignore it, doesn't matter. Tomorrow's a new day. And that's been this team's mentality all season. Anytime they've had any sort of struggles, they've really been able to flush it, move on, and not let it affect them day to day.
Going to game 3, we've heard a lot about LSU's pitching after Paulskenes has pitched. But Thatcher Hurd, Riley Cooper, and Gavin Guidry, they all stepped up and pitched phenomenally to help LSU get this win, even though the bats were working very well for LSU. But speak about those 3 guys, their pitching in that game 3, because it was phenomenal.
Yeah, Thatcher Hurd came out in that first inning, and, the first 2 hit batters he faced, he did not look good. First batter he faced, hard single, and then on a 3-2 count to Wyatt Langford, he hangs a curveball and launch, gone. 2-run home run. You're already down to nothing. And after the night before, everybody's like, "Oh no, here we go again." But no, he really rebounded. The bats picked him up, and he shut it down. I mean, he didn't allow another hit after that first inning, after the first two batters. And Jay Johnson said before the season that if this team was going to be their best version of themselves, that Thatcher Hurd was going to have to factor into that starting rotation. And you saw why. I mean, his curveball is elite. I mean, the spin rate. So I don't know how much you guys get into analytics in baseball, but the spin rate, which determines how much break he can get on the curveball, is well above major league average. And it's a really plus pitch. And then his fastball has a lot of high ride to it, so pairs very well with that curveball. He can throw that fastball up high, and then the curveball looks like the fastball, and then it dives straight down. And then, I mean, Riley Cooper was nails the whole College World Series. The guy had 3 saves, 1 win. I had him on my as my most outstanding player for LSU when I did my voting. And he was on my all-tournament team. Obviously, he didn't make it on the actual one, but he was mine. I mean, he was so clutch. It was so awesome to see. And then the freshman Gavin Guidry coming in, locking it down, and it's awesome for him to get that kind of moment his freshman year. To maybe be able to turn that around and use that, as leadership moving on, and be able to tell the younger guys that are coming in behind him, hey, this is what it's like. We can do this. We got this.
What does it also say about for Jay Johnson and these guys who are pitching that they can actually win without using paulskenes?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the narrative, right? Going on late in the season, right? Oh, LSU didn't have any pitching behind Paulskenes. Well, then Ty Floyd goes and ties a record for most strikeouts in a College World Series game. And Thatcher Hurd shoves, Riley Cooper shoves. I mean, and I don't know that narrative was really fair, because Paulskenes was just so much better than every other pitcher. I mean, he's arguably the best pitcher in LSU history, right? It's him and Ben McDonald, right? Like that's the conversation right now. And I think the only reason you would say Ben McDonald over Paulskenes is because Paulskenes was only there 1 year. But then so to compare the rest of the staff to that guy, it's just not really fair to them. They're really good pitchers, and this was a crazy year for offense across college baseball. They broke a record for most home runs across college baseball this year. And then, that's more than in the 90s when they had the juiced bats. Yeah. And so, but this year there were more. So, I mean, ERAs and everything were up across the country. I mean, you look at Hurston Waldrop, who pitched for Florida in Game 2. That's a guy that's going to go in the top 15 to 20 picks of this year's draft. And he had an ERA around 5. So to kind of knock those guys because they're not Paulskenes, that wasn't really fair. And they showed you what they've got on this big stage.
Before I pass it to VK, the state of LSU athletics. Let's talk about this for a second. Jay Johnson wins the national championship in his second year. Kim Mulkey the same. LSU gymnastics competed for a national championship. Brian Kelly in his first year won the SEC West. Speak about the state of LSU athletics right now, because they're rocking and rolling.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be an LSU Tiger right now. A lot of credit to Scott Woodward, coming in here and, really, I mean, kind of cleaning house. I mean, he's basically replaced every coach to every team that there is. And he's made some fantastic hires. You can tell there's a lot of alignment. Brian Kelly talked about it when he got hired, right? The alignment with the administration, with not just Scott Woodward, but President Tate as well. And I met President Tate at the College World Series. He was at every LSU game during the College World Series. And I'm pretty sure he was the only university president there at any of the College World Series games. So, I think that says a lot about the focus on athletics. And that's really, the athletics is the gateway into the university. That's the university's advertising. And so for them to be able to go on a national stage, I mean, 3 million people watched the game last night. It's crazy. Like, it set a record. this College World Series, all kinds of records were set as far as attendance at the games, viewership of the games, all kinds of stuff, and it's great to see.
I guess anything with Louisiana in it is going to be a high rating on television. I guess that's what it is. You look at it with the New
It looks
you
that
look at
way,
it with the
man.
New Orleans Saints winning the Super Bowl. You look at the LSU women. You look at the LSU football team and now the baseball team. Hey, Louisiana is must see TV. That's what it is. Gotta love it. But appreciate you being on the show, Alex. Want to ask you this. Um, your thoughts on how LSU had a great all-around performance in game 3. I mean, putting everything together from pitching to hitting the home run, but not just that, small ball. And you have to think, and you was there for the regional. Small ball was the key to when they got the win against Tulane, and small ball helped them to get that championship.
Yeah, really, like you said, it was a complete team win. And I think that speaks to a lot of the leadership that was on this team to be kind of like what we talked about, with game 2, to be able to flush it, not worry about what happened in game 2, and then just come out locked in for game 3, and ready to go. I mean, there were some real like special leaders, not just players, but leaders on this team. When you think about Paul Skenes as a special leader, right? Um, Gavin Dugas, Cade Beloso. I mean, Dylancrews is a special player, and he's definitely a leader on that team. He led by example. He's not really that vocal leader type. That's just not his personality. But those rest of those guys, Hayden Stravinsky, those guys are real dogs on that team, and they know how to get the team's mind right.
So, you said your MVP was pretty much you went with the pitcher, and I'm I have a co MVP. I'm going with Dugas. I'm not Dugas, but Dylan Cruz, Tommy White. That's I have to go to co MVP. I would say Cruz all the way, but I'm going with White as well because White has had some huge clutch hits, and both of them has really been balancing things out. So, but looking at things on the pitching side, and I heard you were saying about on Skeens and Ben McDonald and everything. And no disrespect, people forgetting about Anthony Ronaldo. So we can't forget about him. He was unbelievable himself for LSU. But what do you think of the statement that I believe it was Scott Peterson? He said Todd Peterson. He said that probably Skeens is probably one of the best pitchers ever, up there with Steven Strasburg. What do you think about that statement from Peterson?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it just from a pure talent perspective, not necessarily the resume perspective, absolutely. I mean, the fastball is, baseball scouting, they grade on an 80 scale, right, from a 40 to an 80. His fastball grades, some scouts have graded his fastball at an 80, right? It's a perfect pitch. And then his slider is another like, 70, 75, right? You don't see that. And then his changeup and his curveball, he's got, that are good. They're not quite those two pitches, but they're good. And he also hadn't had to use them much in college. So those will be key for him at the next level. But just from a pure talent and pure stuff perspective, yeah, I mean he's up there. Mark Pryor, Steven Strasburg. I mean those guys. I mean when they played A&M earlier in the season, Jim Schlossnagle said that he's playing in the wrong league. He should be in the American League or the National League. He. If you ever wanted to know what it would look like for a major league pitcher to pitch against college bats, you just saw it with Paul Skenes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Looking at the unsung heroes of the ball game, Gavin Dugas, how he stepped up, but not just that. How about the redemption of Jordan Thompson on defense and offense? Your thoughts on Dugas and Jordan Thompson?
Well, I'm going to talk about Jordan Thompson first. I love that guy. I mean, Gavin Dugas is awesome. He's a great leader. Jordan Thompson has had to deal with more fan BS than any player in recent memory, in any maybe since Jordan Jefferson.
Hmm.
Um, and you know Jordan Thompson is one of two players on this team that has played every game, that has started every game for the last 2 years. It's him and Dylancrews. That's it. Those are the only two players that have started every game for LSU the last 2 years. And he's going to get drafted. He's going to be probably a third to a fifth round pick, and he's got a really good shot to make the major leagues. He is say what you want. He's an elite defensive shortstop. He can cover some serious ground. He's got a cannon for an arm, and some major league team is going to take him and kind of mold him into what they need. And he's got all the tools that you need for a big league shortstop. And Gavin Dugas, man, he really got hurt during the Kentucky series, not the Super Regional, but when they played him in the season. He hurt his shoulder, which is why you saw him and Jordan Thompson would flip-flop positions for left-handed bats, because he just couldn't get anything on a throw. He was kind of having a short arm, everything. He couldn't really get his shoulder in the throw. But man, he gutted it out, and he had some big hits, some big home runs. I mean, he wears number 8, right? That's number 8 on baseball is like 18 in football. And he got that number for a reason. And I call him the Homa Hammer. He's awesome.
Well, I gotta ask you this overall with baseball and everything else. Your thoughts about the state of baseball overall. You look at college baseball, how crazy it has been this year with not just the pitching, but a lot of the home run balls are coming back this year in college baseball, but also in Major League Baseball. Unbelievable. I'm 44 years old. I have never seen a Major League Baseball season like this, where you have runs are averaging over 6 a game, meaning you are seeing games that are 8-6, 9-8, 10-8. It's almost like you can bet every game on the over and you win. What are your thoughts on the state of baseball overall in college and the pros this season? It's almost like it's almost drawing me back to watch regular season Major League Baseball games.
Well, that's it, right? I mean, Major League Baseball has had a serious focus on more offense to get more eyeballs, because, I mean, their audience was shrinking. Their audience was aging. They weren't getting the younger demographics in to watch it. So that's why they have the pitch clock now to really speed up the pace of play, which when it first came out, I was like, this is terrible. Now I'm like, this is awesome. Everybody's kind of gotten used to it. It's really sped up the game. And then, the more offense, I think in college, I think it's gotten a little bit out of hand where it's not there a few too many home runs. It's a little too offensive. Elite pitchers, like Herschel Waldrop should not have an ERA of almost 5. Like, that shouldn't be a thing. Maybe I think across college baseball, they averaged around 2 home runs per game. I think you get that number down to about 1.5. I think that's what that's kind of the sweet spot. But yeah, I mean, it's still a ton of fun to watch. I mean, and that's what you're seeing, especially in the SEC, is a shift to more like a major league approach, where you've got power arms, power bats, and it's just all about, lift big, throw gas, hit bombs. And it's a ton of fun to watch.
Absolutely. I'm actually just one more question, and George Pepper is going to take over with questions. LSU winning this title. I know you have seen a lot of their title teams over the years. I know you're probably a little bit younger than me. I've seen about basically almost all of them. What are your thoughts on this 2023 championship team? Because it looked like this was a true great year, but especially a year of redemption for the LSU Tigers and for Jay Johnson.
Yeah, I think in 10 years or so, when we look back on this team is going to have the most major league talent of any LSU team, maybe ever. I mean, the 91 team had like 7 or 8 major leaguers on it. The 2009 team had a bunch of major leaguers on it. 2000 had a bunch of major leaguers on it. But I mean, I think when you look up and down this roster, I mean, you got, paulskenes, dylancrews, Jordan Thompson, Trey Morgan, Thatcher Hurd, Ty Floyd, Christian Little. Those are all guys that have real shots at being major leaguers. And then there's going to be some guys that we don't even really realize yet. Guys like maybe like a Paxton Kling, Bear Jones, some of these younger guys that are on the team that were big contributors this year, that eventually down the road are probably going to make major league rosters. So I think, this team is definitely going to be in the discussion for greatest, not just LSU baseball teams of all time, but greatest college baseball teams of all time. I think that they're going to be in that discussion.
George.
Piggybacking off what you're saying, Alex, I mean, that's a strong statement to say that this LSU team could be one of the GOATs. I mean, we've seen some great LSU teams, and I think this is one of the greats for sure. But we're not talking about last night if Trey Morgan doesn't make that crazy throw to home plate against Wake. We're not talking about last night at all. I think there has to be something to be said about that play, really just giving LSU the linchpin and saying, hey, boys, we're not done yet. Let's go get it. And then, of course, Tommy White doing it for the fat guy. This World Series, isn't that the theme this year? I mean, fat guys rule, correct? I mean, but my first question, let's talk about from this game from the Florida side of things. They come off the 24-win shellacking on Sunday, and they go with Caglione last night. I was telling VK this last night. I said if his off speed's not working, it's not going to be a long night for him. What were your thoughts early with Caglione, and did you feel the same way because his fastball was going good, but when he was trying his off speed, nowhere close.
Yeah, for most of the year, Caglione, has been kind of effectively wild. He's been known to have walks have been an issue with him. He has not gone deep into games on a routine basis. His pitch count gets up because he can't consistently throw strikes. He's got that 99 from the left side, but he can't control it. I mean, you saw that, in the first few batters. I mean, he pegged K. Beloso with his first pitch. And then, he got Morgan to strike out, but he didn't actually throw him a strike. Morgan just swung at balls. And so, I think with Caglione, Florida really hoped that they were going to get good Caglione and he was going to just, be dominant. But, it just didn't work out that way for them.
For us, that's a good thing, considering LSU wins this national championship. That being said, and what's crazy is LSU before the college baseball season was a prohibitive favorite to win this title. You get to the tournament and they're a distant second choice. It was like, I guess they forgot. Ty Floyd didn't lose a game all year. Sure, he had a lot of NDs, no decisions. Thatcher had an ERA higher than the stock market, but he won. Skenes was just terrific. I mean, look, Paul Skenes coming from Air Force, boys. For those of you that don't know, Paul Skenes transferred from Air Force Academy to come to LSU. It's like you get that guy, and he turns out to be this gold mine who arguably could be the number one pick in a couple of weeks in the draft. Now, I'm going to ask you this. If you're the GM, I think it's the Nationals that have the first pick. You got a choice of Dylancrews or Paul Skenes. Who would you take?
So the Pirates have the first pick and the Nationals have the second pick.
Right. Okay, that's right.
And I would say, it's a really good year to be picking third because then you got Wyatt Langford in there too, who's a dude. So I mean, you can't really go wrong with any of these guys. If it was me, I mean, it would really depend on what I needed more. Did I need a hitter? Or do I need a pitcher? If I'm a team that's going into the playoffs and I need another power arm to maybe help me out of the bullpen this year, I'm taking Paul Skenes because he can go to a major league bullpen tomorrow and be effective. He's not going to be dominant in a major league bullpen, but he will be effective. He needs to work on some things with his secondary stuff as far as control and kind of sharpen some of his pitches up. But he can definitely come out of the bullpen and be serviceable right now for the major leagues. Now, what'll probably happen with him, in all likelihood, is whatever major league team drafts him, they'll shut him down. He's already over 120 innings. they're going to shut him down and let him rest in all likelihood. So, I mean, it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. I mean, Dylancrews, I mean, he's that dude, man. He's hit, I think his career batting average is around 380. I mean, he's been the dude since the moment he walked on campus. And, you know, how rare is it that the guy that comes in with all the expectations actually exceeds? I mean, he had sky high expectations and he exceeded those expectations. I mean, he's two-time SEC Player of the Year, Golden Spikes Award winner, national champion. He was the National Freshman of the Year. Just every year he got better. And it didn't seem like there was any way he could get better, but every year he managed to get better.
Which I completely agree with. I mean, yeah, and it is rare that a guy with the expectations of Dylancrews, you know, oh, this guy's going to be the savior of LSU baseball. He's going to lead the Renaissance, and then boom, they win the national title, and he's, as you mentioned, a career 380. When did you feel like that this team could win the national championship? The way they kind of tailspinned a little bit down the stretch, then they lose in the SEC tournament. For me, when they lost to A&M, I think it did them a huge favor. It allowed them to refocus. And we saw good LSU that we saw in the beginning where they run ruled a lot of people. When did you feel like that moment was going to happen at Hey, wait a minute. LSU could get this national championship.
Honestly, I mean, I thought it from the first day, and I never really changed my mind. You know, I thought that they had an opportunity. They had the talent, whether or not they were actually going to get it done, because baseball is a game where the most talented team doesn't always win.
Right.
It's the team that plays the best that day. So it was a matter of, could they get all the pieces? Could Jay Johnson pull all the right levers and get the pieces in the right order to then go and make it work? You know, certainly, I mean, the early exit of the SEC tournament didn't bother me. The SEC tournament doesn't really matter. Paul Maneri really cared a lot about the SEC tournament. He always put a lot of effort into winning it, but you know, it's clear Jay Johnson's not going to put a lot of effort into winning. I mean, he pulled paulskenes on a pitch count. He put paulskenes on a pitch count in the SEC tournament. Paul Maneri would not have done that. And that's not to say Paul was right and Jay's wrong or vice versa. That's just they had different philosophies on it. Jay was trying to win a national championship, and that's what he was going to set out to do. And I think you're right that early exit allowed them to set up their pitching right. They got Paul a little bit more rest because they pulled him on an early, and then were able to really get their bullpen in order and get everything lined up to make their national championship run.
And the unsung hero, you know, VK mentioned Jordan Thompson. The guy is for me, the unsung hero is the kid that threw the elimination game against Tennessee. Was it Van Alpherson? I think I forget how you say his name. The kid that started and shut down a Tennessee offense to take us to the Wake Forest knockout series. That guy is the unsung hero for me because nobody knew what you were going to get from that dude. And he goes out there and he spins 6 innings of shutout baseball. Tells Tennessee, bye. Y'all go ahead on home. We'll continue on. But the talent pool in Omaha this year, I mean, what we saw, obviously with LSU, Wake with that pitching staff, Red Loudon is an outstanding pitcher, 15-1 with a 1 and change ERA. He's going to get drafted very high. Arguably, this talent pool in Omaha is one of the best I've ever seen from the 18s that made it to Omaha. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, especially on our side of the bracket, you know, with Tennessee, LSU, Wake Forest, and Stanford. You know, I mean, that was there's a really talented teams. I mean, you look at Wake Forest, you mentioned Rhett Lauder, but they also had, you know, Brock Wilkin, Nick Kurtz. I mean, Brock Wilkin had 31 home runs. You know, Nick Kurtz had somewhere like 25. I mean, these guys, they were the most complete team all year. Their offense wasn't quite on the level of LSU's, but their pitching was significantly better throughout the year. And then for LSU to come in and be able to beat them twice, you mentioned the performance we got from Nate Ackenhausen to shut down Tennessee. Yeah, I mean it was awesome. And then, you know, on the other side of the bracket, you looked at, like, a lot of people were like Oral Roberts, like, what are they doing in here? They had some real dudes on that team. I was really impressed with them. And TCU, they've got some really good hitters. They're a young team. They're going to be back in Omaha next year. And then with Florida, and then I'm trying to remember the other team that I'm blanking on
Virginia.
right now, but Virginia,
Virginia.
yeah. They've been to Omaha a lot recently, and they had a really good team this year. I didn't think they were quite on the level of some of the other teams talent wise, but they earned their way there, and yeah, I mean this was a super talented group of teams, and I think that showed in the quality of baseball games. I mean,
Mhm.
up until the game two in the finals, no team scored more than 7 runs, and most of your games were 1-run games, and it was so much fun to watch.
Last night VK and I frequented an establishment to watch the game, and I made a joke to him early and said, it'd be funny if LSU scored 25 runs tonight. Doggone near got there and got 18. So, but looking ahead to next year, looking ahead, I mean, there's going to be turnover for LSU. They've already got Kate Hobbs, the transfer from Alabama, to come replace some of the pitching that we're going to lose with Skenes and whatnot. Um, Talk about what LSU could look like next year with the turnover of talent. I mean, we're going to lose Cruz, we're going to lose JT, Trey. I mean, talk about what next year could bring for LSU.
Yeah, next year's going to be really interesting. We've seen the last two national champions, Ole Miss and Mississippi State, who had, were supremely talented teams with excellent leadership, then come out and fall on their face, the year after. I don't think that'll happen to this team. They've got plenty of talent. I mean, they brought in the number one recruiting class last year. They've got, Josh Pearson, Bear Jones, Brady Neal, Paxton Kling. Those are going to be some dudes, and some guys are going to have to step up. It'll be interesting. Some guys are going to have a decision to make too. Guys like Braden Joubert, Hayden Travinsky, Alex Milazzo. They've got another year. They've all got another year of eligibility. So we'll see what happens in the draft. But you're definitely going to need some middle infield help. I mean, you're going to have Gavin Guidry. He's kind of the heir apparent to Jordan Thompson at shortstop, but you're probably going to want him to pitch some.
Mhm.
And you're losing Gavin Dugas, Jack Merrifield, and Jordan Thompson. So Ben DePaul will probably be back. He's got another year of eligibility. He'll probably be back, but he's not a guy you want as your everyday starter. He's a really good depth piece, but he's not. You don't want him in your everyday lineup. They've got a second baseman from South Carolina in the transfer portal. I can't
Mhm.
remember his name right now. Michael Braswell. That's his name. Braswell. He's a really good player. He was really good his freshman year. He kind of took a little bit of a step back this last year for South Carolina. So, he'll be competing for that middle infield spot. But I'll look for them to get some more pitching help in the portal and some more middle infield help. The outfield's going to be set. I mean, you're going to have Josh Pearson, Paxton Kling, and then either someone of like Ethan Fry, Zeb Ruddle. They've got some options there in the outfield.
Last question before I flip it over to Jared Boyd. You obviously cover LSU and obviously a big LSU fan. Personally, what did this title mean for you more than any other? I mean, they've won 7 of these now, but where does this one rank for you? And considering that it took 14 years to get to number 7, where does this one rank for you personally?
I mean, for me personally, this is tops because I'm so much more intimately involved with the team. I've met these players several times. I've talked to these players. I've kind of gotten to know a few of them. I've talked to Jay Johnson. I've gotten to know Jay Johnson a little bit. And then being in Omaha with the team there was incredible. And so the experience of all of that just made this the best college baseball season ever, in my opinion, for me personally.
I want to talk about Jay Johnson for a second. And since you said you got to know him a little bit, how is he as a coach to his players? How is he able to motivate his players? I want to know a little bit about Jay Johnson because I don't know much about him except he coached at Arizona, and he was a hot commodity to get here to LSU. Now he's here, second year college World Series championship.
He's the most like even keel, chill, like Southern California dude that you can imagine. He's just nothing phases him. He's just okay. Let's figure out this is whatever the situation is. All right, this is where we're at. All right, let's figure out how to improve ourselves. and he's big on the process. He's all about process. And, he talks about getting 1% better every day. And he's big on just, if you do the right things every day, the results take care of themselves. And that's all, that's his philosophy. And he is the biggest baseball junkie you can imagine. He is all ball. He does not have hobbies.
Wow.
Like he doesn't go golfing. He doesn't do any of that. Like he does not have hobbies. It is 24/7 baseball.
Wow.
And so when you have a guy like that who grinds like that, I mean, last year he lost all of his assistant coaches and still managed to sign the #1 recruiting class and the #1 transfer class because he himself got on the planes and went to visit all these players and went and did all these recruiting visits by himself while also trying to hire Wes Johnson and Josh Jordan. Like, he's a grinder and he's all ball.
That's amazing. My second question about Jay Johnson. As we know, Jordan Thompson was struggling in the College World Series. Jay Thompson could have easily benched Jordan if he wanted to. He got at the press conference after game 2. Jordan starting, we wouldn't be here without Jordan. Talk about the trust that he has in his players when they're struggling or even not struggling, to stick with them through thick and thin, good and tough times.
I think that goes back to his process-oriented approach. He watches these guys and how they prepare every day. So he knows what their preparation is, and he's studied and thought about every possible outcome, every possible lineup change that he could make. Any possible thing that can happen in the game. He's thought about it and has a plan for it. And so, it's easy for him to have trust those guys because he knows he knows what he has in these guys. He knows exactly who they are, what they can do, what they can't do, and where and how to put them in situations to succeed. He is never going to put his player in a situation that he's not absolutely sure that they will succeed.
VK, do you have another question for Alex?
Man, does Jay Johnson take any vacation or something like that? Do you have a family or something like that? Because that's something else when you ain't got no hobbies and it's grind time baseball. I'm kind of interested. Does he take a vacation or he has a family?
I mean, he's got a wife. He doesn't have any kids though. And I guess his wife's all about it, letting him go do his thing, and I don't know if he takes vacations. I think recruiting visits are his version of vacations.
That is an interesting point. That is because you think about it, you look at assistant coaches, they love to travel, and that's part of the recruiting is. They go talk to the player to make them feel available and try to get them to come to their program. But on top of that, it's like mostly it depends on the budget, all expenses paid, and they can go. Especially it depends on where they're going. They can take their wife or whatever with them. Hey, we just go there and visit a couple players. I'll be there for a couple of days, about maybe make it a week, and then I could just go here, that kind of thing. So I get it. I definitely get it.
George, you got a question for Alex?
Yeah, one more question. Obviously tomorrow, I believe, is where the party's going to be in Baton Rouge. They're going to do some kind of parade. I'm guessing you're going to partake, Alex?
Unfortunately, I will
Oh,
not. So I live in Austin, Texas. So I don't actually live in Baton
oh,
Rouge.
okay.
So going over there, I got a day job. I can't. The college baseball thing is a hobby, and I love to do it, and it's a ton of fun. But now the day job requires me to be here. But I know they'll be unveiling the new Intimidator. They've already got it set up and ready to go. In their team meeting room, where they have all the trophies and everything. They already had the walls updated for the 2023 national champ. Yeah, I mean they're prepared, and I'm sure it's gonna be wild there.
You do
Tomorrow.
a phenomenal job covering college baseball, and you've been a heck of a guest for us, and we thank you for joining us tonight. Jared, it's all yours, but I just want to thank you, Alex. Your intricate knowledge of the game, it's a plus, and we appreciate that about you, and you do a heck of a job.
Well, I appreciate those kind words. Thanks for
And
having me on.
Alex,
Go ahead, BK.
Alex, man,
Uh-oh.
it was great to meet you. Now, see, I have my hand up. That don't count.
Yeah, it counts because I was saying go ahead, but before I even said go ahead, you were like Alex, but go ahead.
I'm gonna get y'all that that don't
No,
count.
you're not.
Yeah, whatever. But Alex, it was great to meet you out there, man. It was a privilege to meet you out there for the regionals and everything else. And y'all do some great solid work. We're hoping to be a guest on one of y'all podcasts sooner or later and everything else. So continue to do the good work and everything. And I just gotta ask you this one thing about Dylancrews. There has been a couple of people I was hearing last night and everything, and they were saying that Dylancrews could be one of the best LSU baseball players ever. Do you think that is true? Because to me, who I think is the greatest baseball player ever to play for LSU, to me all around, has been Todd Walker, and I think Dylancrews is the closest thing to him. What are your thoughts?
So I think Dylancrews passed Todd Walker in my opinion. Uh, I certainly don't hate the pick saying Todd Walker's better. I mean there's a debate to be had, but for me Dylancrews is I think Ben McDonald said it best. He's the best position player ever at LSU. Now it's funny when Ben McDonald said that because he emphasized the best position player, right? Because Ben was like, I'm still the
He
best
did say
pitcher,
that.
but
Mm,
Dylan
He did say that.
Dylan is the best position player. And his number will be up there. His name will be up there right next to Todd Walker, Ben McDonald, Eddie Furness, and it deserves to be. I'm all aboard. Retire 3. I mean, he's only the second Golden Spikes Award winner. Ben McDonald's the first, and then it's Dylancrews. And just when you look at he did. I mean, he didn't hit for as high an average as Todd Walker did for his career. I mean, Todd Walker hit over 400 for his career, which is just insane. But for me, I think Dylancrews is the best LSU baseball player that I've ever seen.
I'll get you out of here on this last question. I've watched LSU sports for years, and for some reason this year, I've seen the most unity within the coaching staffs of every sports program at LSU cheering for one another. At the World Series, we saw Brian Kelly and some of his coaching staff, Cortez Hankton being one of them. We saw Kim Mulkey there, and we saw the president there, even Paul Maneri. What does that say about that university where all these different coaches can come together and cheer for each other?
Yeah, I think that a lot of credit goes to Scott Woodward for that. I think that talks a lot about the culture he's created within the athletic department of, hey, we're all in this together. We're a team. We're all cheering each other on. We all want the same things for LSU athletics. And, especially, like having Paul Maneri there. Skip Bertman was
Yep.
there as well. I don't think, I'm not sure. I don't think he was there last night, but he was definitely there earlier in the College World Series. And so it's just, you can really tell that there is a special bond between the coaches at LSU, and I think a lot of credit goes to Scott Wood for that and creating that kind of culture and atmosphere within the athletic department.
Most definitely. Alex Day, thank you for joining us once again, my man. In the future, we love to have you on again once baseball gets up and running.
Yeah, man, look forward to it. Just let me know. I appreciate you guys having on. It's always a good time, and y'all be
Definitely
safe.
you too. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
All right. Alex Day, ladies and gentlemen, College Baseball Central contributor. Look, I watched a lot of baseball these past 10 days, all college. There's nothing else I could do, with this hurt leg, having surgery and everything. But it was very fun to watch college baseball. And to watch from the beginning till the end was magnificent in itself. George, like you said, we saw a theater with LSU and the way they won.
Mm-hmm.
Florida, how they smashed LSU the other day. Wake Forest with a win. It was a lot of theater that you noticed with it. And I think we got good baseball for these 10 days. And I hope that what we saw will help elevate this baseball game to newer heights come next season and beyond. What do you think, George?
I don't doubt it. And then the statement that I actually made was that baseball in and of itself provides the most drama because your heroes are unknown. It's not always the obvious person. It's always the unsung guy, like Tommy Tanks against Wake in the knockout game to put us into the put LSU into the final. That doesn't happen without Trey Morgan. Trey Morgan doesn't make that play. We lose 1-0. And we're not talking about an LSU national title. It's Wake or Florida. And I'll say this about the series itself, the 3 games that LSU played. I think game one, more than any other, was the more accurate barometer of this series. I think games 2 and 3 were anomalies because you got the worst of LSU in game 2 and the worst of Florida last night. I think game 1 is the more accurate reflection of what these two teams were about. Yes, Florida beat LSU in the regular season, but the Gators were the second best team in the country. And a little perspective. LSU was 3-1 to win the national title before the season started. Do you know they drifted as high as 8-1 before the NCAA tournament? You could have got this team at 8-1 if you still believed in this team. Vegas got away. They kind of cooled off on them because they had the knockout against A&M. They lost a couple of midweek games against teams that you really, quite frankly, should have beaten. But look, the last few days, the last week and a half of the baseball in Omaha has been some of the most top notch baseball. And a lot of these guys that we saw in Omaha, gentlemen, are going to be people we'll see in the major leagues. Hopefully, hopefully a couple of those guys fall into into Citi Field. Lord knows the Mets need all the help they can get. So, just saying. The to that analytics knucklehead that's my GM. Hey man, get it right. But look, the baseball to close on this. The College Baseball World Series this year, more than any other, provided a great drama. Look at how many close games we had. Do you know before LSU played Tennessee in the knockout game, only one game was decided by more than one run? Before the LSU Tennessee knockout game, where Van Helsing shoved it down their throat, 5-0. One game other than that game was decided by a run. Just for a little perspective and how competitive this field was. Like I said, the 2 and 3 was an anomaly. That was not an accurate barometer of who was that what or what not. Florida was not 20 runs better on Sunday. LSU was not 14 runs better last night. I think game 1 was more for me the accurate barometer.
VK, I want to throw this at you right quick because the Trey Morgan play is to me the most important play throughout this whole College World Series. Like George says, if that play doesn't get made, LSU is not even in the College World Series championship rounds. They practiced that play, but the type of throw Trey had to make in order to get the out was phenomenal. It ain't run, scoop, and throw like this. It was dive, grab, and while you're still diving through the air, toss it straight out to your catcher to make the play. That was the play of the whole College World Series. What are your thoughts?
Very much agreed. Very much agreed. It was the play that really clinched it, really helped LSU getting it done. That play particular reminded you so much, and this was the exact play the New York Yankees and the Oakland A's in the wild card, where Derek Jeter made, and I'm a little bit at it because I'm an Oakland A's fan
Yes,
myself.
indeed.
Because trust me, Oakland was in position and they blew it. And it was just the fact of the matter is, if Derek Jeter don't make that play, the Oakland A's would have had a chance to win, and I think they would have won that series. But with him making that play, it changed everything. Same thing with Trey Morgan. That was very huge for him to make that play. It was a desperate play, and it was needed just to make the stop. when they made the stop, you just knew right then and there. You just had a feeling LSU was going to find a way to pull it out, which they did, and it was a great all around ball game indeed. LSU, and to me, LSU showed throughout the season they're the most resilient team in college baseball. They've overcome a lot of things, injuries. They overcame a slump. They overcame a lot of things, and I think that loss in the SEC tournament gave them new life. And LSU, bouncing back, doing well in the regional, in the super regional, and coming up with some big wins. And then the bullpen, all this, it's just unbelievable what LSU has done. And to me, I think this LSU championship is up there. To me, one of the best championships maybe ever. I think the best one outside of this one was the one when they beat Miami and Warren Morris,
96. Yes.
96. I
96.
still never forget that moment, and this kind of reminisces it because of the fact, even despite of the 18-4 game, this was a redemption tour for the LSU Tigers and for Jay Johnson. And you have to think the history also into this. 7 national championship. Jay Johnson gets his first national championship coming, and payback for LSU losing to Florida in 2017. You look at dylancrews. He is the third player in college baseball history to win the Golden Spikes and win a national championship. LSU is the third team to beat a 1 and a 3 seed to win the national championship.
You mean 1 and 2?
One, two.
1 and 2.
Yeah.
They're the third team ever to beat the number 1 and number 2 teams in the tournament to win a national title. That is big time there. And George, to kind of correct you, and I don't know if I told you last night, this was the first time LSU Florida played this year. They did not play in the regular season.
They did not play in the regular season. That's correct.
So
Okay, I stand corrected.
All
right.
good. All good.
All good.
Everybody makes mistakes.
No, you
Just
good.
remember, Jared, 41 minutes, bro. 41
Oh, I'm
minutes.
with you.
No,
Oh, yeah, I'm with
that
you.
don't count.
41.
No, that don't count because I have
Yeah,
my hand. I have
Wow.
my hand raised. Hold up, I have
Wow.
my hand raised. When you have your hand raised, that don't count. I would have said, yeah. No, I have
So
my hand up.
hold on. So when you was in school, you had your hand raised. You still just cut off the teacher without her calling on you?
No, because you did call. You did call. You said, VK. You said, VK. You must got something to say. Boom.
No, I didn't say that. I
No, he didn't.
was about to say go ahead, and before I said go ahead, there you went.
Because
what?
I followed your order, didn't I? Thank you. So
No.
Oh,
No.
my God.
Oh, Lord.
All right, look, the fun is great, gentlemen. But I have a question for both of you. And to close, I guess, before we move on, I have a question for both of you. Look, the passion and the atmosphere throughout this World Series, but being where me and VK were last night, we got to see it more front and center. And you were in our thoughts, Jared, because we wanted you there with us, but we know you have an arduous, tough rehabilitation of forthcoming and whatnot that you're undergoing. And before we continue, our thoughts and prayers are with you, brother. We love you and we got you every which way. But personally, and we live in the state of Louisiana outside of New Orleans. We're not in Baton Rouge, but LSU is the quote flagship school in the state.
Right.
And me and VK, we came up with a little slogan when we got Louisiana involved: "Win it for the boot." That's what we say. And the next time we're doing that is when Dustin Poirier fights Justin Gaethje, July 29th. And that's something we're going to congregate together on that. But for you both, and Jared, take it first, without interruption, of course. I'm kidding when I say that. Take this first. What is this championship? And look, 96 will always, for me, be number one, just because of the theater with Warren Morris. I mean, dude, the man had a wrist injury that he missed 40 something games that year. And nobody and their mother would have told you, oh, he's going to jack one against the best reliever, Logan Morrison, in college baseball that day. Remember that? He was the number one dude. His ERAs was in the ones. What does this championship for you mean as a resident of this state?
It means this to me. It means this, that no matter no matter what you're going through, hard times, tough times, good times, bad times, perseverance will always come through as long as you never quit. And LSU got off to a great start in the season, and then yeah, they slipped pretty bad. They did. They had a little rough going. Um, and with that being said, they never quit. Jay Johnson didn't quit. To me, this is a perseverance championship. I'm gonna call this year the year that they persevered. You saw Jordan Thompson and his struggles, Gavin Dugas and his injuries. You know, it happens with baseball. People have slumps and things happen, but this team never quit when things got tough, when things got rough. They continued to persevere, and that's why I will say this is the Perseverance Championship, the 2023 title.
Well, for me, you know what I'm saying, as a resident of the state of Louisiana, I love every minute of it. You know, I'm 44 years old. I'm a kid, and I look at these big time market teams, these big schools, and I at big schools, big major league teams, and I'm thinking, man, will New Orleans, will Louisiana ever have a championship? Will and I just kept thinking, like, when are we gonna be having the parades? Because I got to the point I got sick and tired of looking at the Lakers and all these people with these titles and all. No hate, but it's the fact that, can we get a chance? Can we show the world that this state is worthy to do any and anything? And that changed around, and I believe what it was 90, or it might have been 99 or whatever, the first national title for LSU football, the first one in 54 years of the school. And it was crazy when they won it under Nick Saban. And it was like big time hope there that finally state of Louisiana gets to shine. And then years later, LSU wins another one. And then all of a sudden, I'm thinking, all right, how can we grow from this? Then all of a sudden, the New Orleans Saints, and this thing started around 2007, Sean Payton's first year, gave the Saints in the city of New Orleans hope. 2006. I'm sorry, first year. They go all out, go to the NFC Championship, gets this close to get into the Super Bowl, but then all of a sudden, what is like 4 years later, they get to the bowl. Not just get to the bowl, they did something the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers couldn't do. One time, they get it done. The world title. We have a parade in New Orleans. It's the greatest feeling in the world. It's the greatest feeling when the state of Louisiana shines. I love every minute of when we get out there. And this is the most consistent we have ever seen of LSU. And you look at it now, you got what, four football championships now. And then all of a sudden, now the women have a not just the LSU women's, but LSU basketball, period, wins a national title on the women's side. And a coach that's going in the second year, going in third year now. But when Jay Johnson takes over a program that was started, Skip Bertman, and then all of a sudden Paul Maneri maintaining the program, winning a title. Now Jay Johnson the second year wins it all. It was a resilient team. It's great. And now who's next? Brian Kelly in year number 2. Let's see what happens, because he's got a bunch of experienced players coming back, including a very good transfer. And LSU football is going to be something to be reckoned with coming up this season. But like Jared said, and I agree, this was a resilient team, perseverance team, and also it kind of reminded me of the Atlanta Braves a couple of years ago
Oh
when
no.
they had to overcome. No, it's a good
You're right
analogy,
though. You're
George.
right. I'm just
And
not
I'm
a
saying,
Braves fan.
I'm saying that because of the fact that all the injuries the Atlanta Braves suffered, and them fools got to that World Series and won it. Probably the best out of them two championships. And you look at the Braves this season, and what was sweet? LSU winning the title, and the Atlanta Braves, the best team in Major League Baseball right now. Gotta love it. So sweet.
I want to answer my own question to you both. For me, as a resident of the state of Louisiana, as a resident of the West Bank, and LSU being the flagship, and look, I support all Louisiana teams. Let me make this full disclosure. I support all Louisiana teams in any endeavor and wish them the greatest of successes because it means a lot to the state. I'm not a native of Louisiana. I've lived here long enough. But LSU has always been the flagship team. And VK, before I continue, I want to thank you for sharing last night, where we were last night. We had a heck of a time. It was an amazing atmosphere. It's one that I'll remember for a very long time. And I thank you for being a part of it with me last night. Um, Jared, I wish you were there, but I get the rehab. I totally understand it. But we're going to have those moments together again. We're going to do this again. This is not a one-off. This is going to happen again. So that's a promise, not a statement. It's a promise. So we're gonna make it happen. Who knows? Maybe we'll see Michigan play for a national title this year. Who knows? I mean, they do have a garbage schedule. That schedule is pure D garbage. But for me, what it means to see the unity and the bond. Alex mentioned this on the show a little bit ago. Kim Mulkey being there, Skip Bertman, Paul Maneri, and Gordon Hankton, and I'm sure other coaches were there in Omaha while LSU was partaking in this World Series. Just to see that, and the fans, look, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram blew up like wildfire last night, and seeing all the love being bestowed on LSU, it warmed my heart, which is now healed, by the way. Remember, I told you guys about this a couple of weeks ago. Got the full clearance from my cardiologist last week, so that was an awesome day in and of itself. But it warmed my heart to see that, that there was pure love for that program, and who, like VK said, I don't know what football is going to bring. I mean, I'm just so looking forward to seeing football because I feel like this year is going to debunk the idea that we have a dynasty. And that's an early hint. Georgia, they've won two in a row. They don't have Stetson Bennett though, so we're gonna see what's gonna happen with that. Um, I want to see what this football season brings. But for me personally, it was beautiful to watch, and the elation that group felt. It was like finally, after 14 years, I used an old wrestling thing last night, Jared, to VK. You remember Triple H when he lost his title? He said the King of Kings goes back on his throne. Well, I'm going to paraphrase it. The team of teams goes back on their throne, and LSU did that emphatically last night. Emphatically, and it was great to watch, great to see, and the fans. I mean, it was beautiful. I mean, this is one I'm going to remember, but 96 is always going to be number one. Nothing beats 96 because that was just unexpected. Not so much winning, but the way they won.
Wait, yeah,
That's
exactly.
not the fact that they won the game. It's how it happened. Warren Morris, wrist injury, out most of the year, no home runs. Boom, against the best reliever in college baseball. Parks went into the right field seats. That's always going to be number one. This is a big number two, though. Last night, 2023 is number two with a bullet.
Yeah, I
Mm,
agree. I agree.
absolutely. And and
Definitely.
and and this was like, and like I said, we share. I think we've been shared a lot of moments. And to me, personally, since been a lot, I've been going on with me since I've been home.
Of course.
I didn't had a lot of great moments since I've been home, and I love every. It just shows that God brought me home for a reason, and that's just straight up, man. Because it's just amazing, especially what I've seen, and especially in this state. And then you look at, especially this season, you look at what Southern University football did. I experienced their homecoming. I experienced the family with that. It was cool being at the Bayou Classic, going to the Tulane games. It was amazing to be at the Tulane games, and it was, oh man, the conference championship. And then it's just unbelievable experiences that, it was something a long time ago I sacrificed. But now this is awesome. And I want to continue enjoying this. I hope there's gonna be a lot more coming up this football season coming up. I hope it's a really good year. You know what I'm saying? This is the one thing I do want to see. The next big thing I do want to see, to be honest, you know, I want to see my alma mater finally gets to the state title game. I want to see my alma mater in the state title game, and not just go to the state title game, but win it. I want to finally see it. We have seen over the years all these other unknown schools.
I see mine too.
Oh man, look. Y'all been to the dome
Look, he want to get
more
like
recent.
Y'all been like Skip. He want to get like Shannon Sharp. Are you going?
Exactly.
Wait.
Haters gonna hate.
Haters is gonna hate. Cause I'm like this. They've been to the dome more recent. St.
So
Aug, what you mean so? St. Aug ain't been in the dome since '79. We trying
y'all
to
ain't
break
paying
up.
the rent.
What you
Y'all ain't
mean?
paying the rent.
Oh, please. Y'all took y'all what 30 something years for y'all
Say,
to
bro,
get back?
it don't matter. We got
Once
2
in 30?
rings in the Superdome. How many y'all got?
That's true. Wait. St.
Oh, I
Aug.
thought so.
Hold on. Every state championship St. Aug went to, they won. So they never lost since they've been to any title game. They just haven't been back since '79.
Hey, football wise.
Wow.
Football wise,
Okay,
they have
okay. I got
football wise.
Okay, we got it. We got
They
you.
just ain't never been back. That's the
Hmm.
one sport. I tell you, our alumni is so crazy in itself, and you know this, Jared. Even the other state
you. Doesn't teach over
championships
there.
they win. Football is the one freaking sport. Oh my God, that's the biggest monkey
Hmm.
that St. Aug has on their back. Is that sport, and everybody knows if St. Aug gets to the Superdome in football, all those crowds be coming for St. Aug when they play in basketball and the other sports. But this one, everybody and their mama from across the country is gonna get plane tickets and they coming because this is the championship game that those folks been waiting on. They waiting on all to finally get back in that dome. And it's gonna be as big of a crowd as the Algiers explosion. That's how big it's gonna be because I'm telling you, and people knows it in the city. St. Aug alumni deep, and I mean deep. So if they get to the title game, it'll be awesome. It'll be sweeter if they win it, especially under Nick Foster, who's a brother to me. That would be the sweetest thing if that happens this year. Because hey, I sacrificed a life in my life, but this has been amazing stuff that we have all experienced.
And the 3 of us will be in the Superdome when that happens, right?
That's right.
That's
And
right.
in the same capacity, where Jared ain't gonna spend $25 on a bag of peanuts or something like that.
Fill
Where
that application out, buddy.
I got.
exactly,
I
baby.
got it sitting right there. I
Yeah,
got
we good. All right,
it.
but I mean, there's so much to say, and just Jared, continue prayers for your rehab and
Thank
whatnot. But where else are we going tonight? Are we gonna? I mean, what you got in mind here?
Well, let me say this before we close out.
All right.
All right. So VK just said what he wants to see happen, and I had an idea when we get into high school football that we all have our top 5 things that we would like to see happen in the high school football season. So I know
Hmm.
VK just gave us one, so he can go look up and get another 4. I
Hmm.
got my 5. George, you get your 5, and I'll put it out for everybody to see.
Okay.
Yeah. Tomorrow night we are back at 7:30. We're back at 7:30. We have Courtney Cole Hogan. If you don't know who Cole is a very popular person when it comes to the New Orleans Recreation Department. He's a guy that helps mentor these kids to get them on the right track and keep it in a straight line. He's also helps with awards and all type of stuff with the North department. But he also hosts a show that you can catch on Instagram pretty much every Tuesday at 10 o'clock called the 1008 Show through his 1008 Prep TV sports page. So we're going to have Cole here tomorrow. We're going to talk about the things he does with the North department, and he'll give us his takes on some of the high school football programs in New Orleans, because he's very big with these high school football programs in New Orleans. Pretty much knows every team, every coach. So he's going to tell us his expectations, what he thinks. We got all that tomorrow. Plus, we're not big on interviewing high school football players unless we get permission from their head coach. And we got permission from Linares Elphage, who was our first guest ever on this show. We got permission from him to interview one of his players, and that is Bernard Carsey, also known as BB, one of the top cornerbacks in the state of Louisiana, who has committed to Ole Miss. He is going to join us tomorrow after we finish talking with Cole. So we got Courtney Hogan and we got Bernard Carsey tomorrow. So that is it for the show tonight. I want to thank Alex Day. I want to thank my two co-hosts, VK Jones and George Peppers. He's throwing up the L. Yes, he's throwing the L for LSU. That's what he's doing. Other than that, we are back tomorrow at 7:30, not 8:15, 7:30. So please tune in again tomorrow. We appreciate y'all. I'm your host, JB, your sports guy. We'll see y'all later.